Hey everybody, it's Gale the Quick here, and we're going to have a little tutorial today. We have a cool spaceship in the background, and it is remarkably simple. I made this quick render that I'm playing now, and I'm going to show you how to make some of the parts of it today in a quick tutorial for Blender 2.8. Let's close that down. So I'm going to show you what I had already, what I've got put together. So, get this over here. Hopefully it won't slow everything down. So this is the ship. Obviously based off a Imperial Star Destroyer, everyone's favorite. And it's got a lot of detail. I got these panels on it. It's got lights on the side of it, engines in the back. We won't focus on the engines today. That's just a simple shape with an emission on it. But what we will do is so we zoom in here, we have kind of some procedural detail here. And you'll see the geometry for this is super simple. Nothing beyond the base kind of shape here, and some panels of armor to make it look cool, and to have that second material on it there. So I'm going to keep this open for reference, because I'm not a master of this, but we're going to open up another instance of Blender 2.8, and the cool thing about these materials is that they are procedural to a degree, so we'll be able to take pretty much anything we want and be able to give it a little bit more surface detail to make it more interesting. And we'll do it without increasing geometry as well. So let me pop open this here, and we won't be needing this. Or, well, I guess I will keep this shape here. So let's prototype our materials on there. So what we're going to do, give ourselves a little bit more space down here, is we're going to keep this principled shader. Yeah, well, we can keep the principled shader right there, and we're going to add in a texture and the Veroni texture, and just put that over to base color right there. Give ourselves the appropriate preview. Ooh, come on. Alright, so now we have our Veroni, or Voronoi shapes on here, and it is pretty sweet. And we are going to first press Shift A, and we are going to bring out input, and we're going to get geometry data from our object, or from this, and we're going to start with position into the vector. So now when we grab it, you can see it moves with it. And the idea here is that if we wanted to bake this out, you know, if we're making something for a game, so that's why we're using this, is so we get kind of even shapes, because if we don't, let's take that out there, and we move it, see it works like that. If we're going to scale it, the X or the Y, we get distortion. So that's why we are using that. And just to start off, I think we need this. Let's get another input. We're just going to go to value. We're going to put it into there, because we're going to have two of these eventually. So let's bump that up to 5. All right. So how is this useful? Doesn't seem to be so. Well, they've added a bunch of options with 2.8. So we normally just had intensity and cells would give us these cool colors right here. And if we take this out and get the factor, which is essentially just a grayscale version of that, boom, we have surface panels. Now these don't really look sci-fi-ish or panel-y, but a cool mathematical thing arriving with the Voronoi diagrams is that if you change the way you calculate distance, you get all kinds of different shapes, and they've added in a couple. There's Manhattan, which is the one we are going to be using, which gives you more angular 45-degree things. It looks a bit more sci-fi. And there's also that one that I can't pronounce, which is a little bit different, but it also gives you some shapes like that. And again, you might want to change the scale, make it bigger panels, smaller panels, that type of thing. And then there's Minuski or something. Not quite sure what this one is, but it does have this exponent thing here you can modify, which can give you some other interesting shapes that you can do the same thing with this. So let's change it to Manhattan distance. Like I said, that's the one we're going to be using. And you'll see we got our things there. Let's get scale 2. Now we have, in addition to cells, Manhattan, and closest, we got second closest, which can give you some more shapes, but the one we're going to be using is called Crackle. I'm not sure why this is here, and Intensity. So crackle and intensity gives us these popping things, this popping. So if we go to input or vector, bump, and we use that as the height, put that into our normal, you can see we get very, very simple surface detail. And that guy, we have messed up for a reason. But anyways, this is a very easy way to get what's called in the industry greebling, surface greebling. But you'll still see that it's just a flat shape. We have whatever shape we had before. Now let's pop in a couple more shapes. Let's go a cylinder, and then a sphere. Okay, those are off in the middle of nowhere. And let's try out our material on them. So, very easy sci-fi looking stuff. And if we don't want this, we can do the same with our bump. Let's hit these a little bit closer, and you see they do, because it's based on the world position, so it looks really cool when it's moving. Maybe that might be a feature you want. So, you can check out our base color. You'll see we still have that kind of geometry. Well, not the geometry, but the fake geometry from normal map. And we are going to put this down here, duplicate that, input the same data, and we're going to, let's see what we're doing, change it to cells, then from crackle back to closest, and line that up. So now you'll see each sector has been given its own color. And if we wanted to, we can make it gray. Beautiful. And let's see, I believe if we do the same thing with the cells, well, that'll give us an odd feature. Yeah, so change it back to closest. And then this is how I got the surface panels for the top of the ship. So let's go through and make our little simple ship now. So we'll start with a cube, grab what will be the front of it. Let's put a loop cut down it. Scale it out on the Y by 3. Scale it down on Z by 5. The sides should be all scaled down. Scale Z 0.1. Oop. Scale Z 0.2. Here we are. Scaling everything except for the height by a small amount. Scale down. You two need to scale out. There we go. That's our basic space shippy shape. Let's put our material on it. There we go. Very, very simple. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select these outer panels, duplicate them. That's Shift D, and then press P and selection to make a different thing, different object. So now we can grab these. We should be able to just scale them out by a little bit. Really good. And we can pop on a solidify modifier. Increase our thickness as we so desire. Then we'll select the sandwich internals of our ship, and then we can change this to a new material. So I've noticed that if you make a new material from here, it won't copy the current material, but if you go over to the materials tab over here, and then hit the new material there, it will make a copy of it. So, internal greedles. That's what I spelled. Alright, so now we're going to make these. This is our internal, so we're going to bump up the scale, make it much smaller. So we're going to make it look like living quarters and other things are jutting out from the side of our ship. So we are going to change it back to the intensity of our crackle pattern. There we go. And if we want to, we can make this darker color. Right? Brightness, contrast. And just bring that down a little bit. And there we go. It's looking very good for the amount of work that we put in here, and of course for how low poly this whole thing is. So the last thing that I had in the other version, if I pull that over here, other than the complete geometry there, and the engines, was the lights. So if I turn that there, you'll see there are procedural lights being added. And that one was pretty complicated, but I will show you how to do it now. So we got the basics in here. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add in an emission shader. Shader emission right up there. And then we want to add in a mix shader right here. And I think there's a way to do this with the principled shader, but this is what I did. So I'm showing that to you. Mix shader, get that. That there, there. And actually let's preview this whole thing. And we're going to add in a noise shader and a color ramp. So let's grab our color ramp right here, wire that up, go to our texture, and we want a noise texture. So pop that into there. Bump up the scale to about 150. And just so we don't get any distortion as well, let's pop in the position right there. So it should be more even over the whole thing. And color ramp that right there. And this is the same process I used to make the background in the other one, the stars in the background. And you'll see you do get this sample-based thing, which is why they were all twinkling, which maybe that's what you want. But again, this is intended for, I made this with the intention of baking it out to a final thing, so that shouldn't be a problem. All right, and then we do our color rampy thing until we find a good position here. Yeah, and then so the generation thing is popping up. Alright, so now that's how we got lights in the ship, and we just need to combine them together. So there we go. That very basically is what I did. Now we have a cool spaceship. Needs some engines, of course. But yeah, basically, that's a way you can get a super easy, super simple ship and texturing done, especially if you need something for the background or you got a lot to make. And let's change the color of this, make that a bit more. So let's just see how quickly we can use these to make another really cool looking ship. So we're gonna just take a cube, we're gonna give it our internal greebles shader, and look at that, we already got a Borg cube. And we're going to scale this down by 2, scale it up on the Y by 5, and we're just going to make some fancy stuff with boxes. So let's extrude that, scale it up, extrude it back out again. We're going to inset these faces, but then extrude them, scale them out, and then bevel them. And then extrude this one out to the front. And I guess we're going to go with a hammerhead style of ship today. It's just a question of what type. Inset there, extrude, scale, everything except the Z. Then scale it on the y-axis. There we go. Cool. And we'll do the same thing we did before. Well, scale it down. It's looking kind of like a vacuum for some reason. Oh well. Let's give it some arms on the side. More. There we go. And then now we're just gonna kind of select a few faces at random here. Oops. Inset them, and then extrude them, scale them out, and then go to individual origins and scale them back in. Oop. Yeah, so not perfect, but still, it's looking really cool considering it's really just some random stuff that we threw together. I kind of want these to be branched out like that. That'll be fun. And let's give it a fin. Grab Y. Like so. There we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to give it those external armored plates. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab face select and select all the faces we want to be armored. I guess we're going to kind of try to keep a thing here, and this will look really cool. Alright, and then it's going to need some fine tuning, but got that. Press period to kind of zoom center it, then shift D. We've got what we want our armor plates to be. P to make a different object. We go out and select it, go in to edit it, and scale it all up. Oh yeah, we're still on individual origins, so if we scale it all up by just a little bit, and then we go to kind of medium point, scale it all up just a little bit more. That should get most everything. Looks like this one here we put in front of our engine. Kind of got stuck inside there. GX. Can I bevel that? No, should not. Right, and then we can change that to our other one. And look at that. Got a couple of, okay, we have one kind of, we got a couple of super basic spaceships. That's what I'm saying here. They look good. Let's put it on Eevee. That's right, it doesn't default to Eevee. So this should work with Eevee. Doesn't use any of the shaders that don't work with it. Here we go. Now we can fly around, get better looks at it. Yeah. This armor plate on the front will look cooler. So another thing we can do, insert the armor, move it forward like that. And yeah, there's a bunch of ways you can go from this. I suppose we should add the solidify. Solidify. Oh, that's one. You can make it puff out. Yeah. Let's do that. Nice. All right. Well, hey, I'm Kale the Quick. That was a super quick tutorial on how to just whip out some basic looking spaceships if you need a few for your backgrounds. Thank you for checking me out. Again, I'm Kale the Quick. Don't die.